What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. Alright, so we are going to continue our coverage over Spawn for Spawn Sundays, except this time we pick up with Curse of Spawn, issues number 26, 27, and 28. Now remember, when it came to Curse of Spawn being the first spin-off series from the original, it was technically used as a way to explore the Spawn universe, to meet new characters who could possibly play big roles down the road in later Spawn comics. Now, when it comes to this storyline, it really does focus on Sam and Twitch. Now remember, Sam and Twitch used to be part of the NYPD, but they have technically given up that job. Well, really, they were fired from that job when they were trying to prove that their boss was actually corrupted. Either way, after losing their job, they became private investigators. And so this storyline right here is them trying to go after a serial killer and to hopefully bring him to justice. Now, while they're doing that, well, someone else who's very close to Spawn is also trying to do the same thing as well. Guys, we are about to meet the brother of Spawn, the brother of Simmons, who is actually an FBI agent. And so getting into today's storyline, we do pick up with a character known as Margaret. Now, when it comes to Margaret, you would believe at first that she would be a major character for this story, but she's really not. Matter of fact, she's only used as a way to introduce the killer of this story. And so as we dive in, we pick up with her just barking commands at people who work under her as she gets into her limo. And you then have her driver begin to drive her to her next appointment. But while on their way there, they almost get into a car accident with a tow truck. Now, they were able to avoid the accident with the tow truck, but they went off road and crashed into a ravine. Now, you do have the tow truck come back, and you believe the driver of the tow truck is going to save her, but he's not going to do that. Now, this character right here, his name is Travis Quinn. Now, when it comes to Travis, he has a skin problem. And matter of fact, the doctors were able to identify what kind of skin problem he had. But unfortunately, to his parents, they looked at his skin problem as the devil's work. And so over time, they would beat him and try to teach him the power of God to hopefully fix his skin problem. Either way, it never went away. Now, he did gain a nickname, and that nickname was Crocodile. Now, that name right there is going to be very important. But either way, he begins the process of using his tow truck to hopefully save Margaret and her driver who had crashed in the ravine. But then as some time has passed by, we do pick up with Margaret waking up in some kind of junkyard and realizing that she's no longer in her limo. She begins to freak out. But out of nowhere, she is confronted by Travis. Now, when he does appear, he does talk about the idea of repairing her soul, that her soul needs some work. And so he has tools in his hands and he is beginning to walk towards Margaret to hopefully fix her. Now, she does try to run away, but unfortunately, the door she gets to is locked. And so we're left to believe that Margaret has been killed off by Travis. And so we do pick up with Sam and Twitch. Now, when we do, you have our two characters heading over to a psych ward. Now, remember, they are just private investigators around this point in time in Spawn comics. But the reason why they're going over to the psych ward because they were called up by a doctor who works there, and his name is Carl Marsh. Now, when it comes to Carl Marsh, he wants the two heroes here to basically help him prove that a patient that he recently had who has been released is actually innocent, because we kind of find out the crocodile killer has been on the move for a very long time and has been racking up the bodies left and right. But he's afraid the police are going to look at every single piece of evidence and try to say that his recent patient that was released is the one going out there killing people. But he believes that his old patient is actually innocent. And so his old patient name is Roger Bonner. And so it's up to our heroes to prove that Roger is innocent, that he is not the crocodile killer. But the question is right now, who could possibly be the crocodile killer? Which technically we already know is Travis Quinn. Now that is the moment where we do pick up with a character known as Zender. Now when it comes to Zender, he's actually an FBI agent. And so we see him and others arriving at a scene where a limo was found. Except when they open up the limo, they find a dead body. The problem is the dead body is so deformed by the actual killer, it's a sickening sight to see. You have police just throwing up all over the place. But you have Zender say, you know what? It's time for me to call in for some help. And that is the moment where we pick up with Marc Simmons, the brother to Al Simmons, of course, Spawn. This is Spawn's brother, y'all. Now, when it comes to Marc, he is an FBI agent, but technically he's used as a way to help profile a possible killer, to get a better idea of what kind of person they are looking for. And currently we see him and a team of FBI agents trying to help a soldier calm down, someone who has a hard time coming back to America after being on tour for a while. And so he's currently holding hostages and has a grenade in one of the hostages' mouths. And so you have Marc trying his best to defuse the actual situation. Now, as the scene goes on, unfortunately, the soldier is killed off, but he is able to save the hostages. But for Marc, it's still a failure because his main goal is not just to profile a killer, but to also help that killer work through their problems so that they can come in easily and go to jail, but to also go to jail and work on their problems. And so with this soldier who was having a hard time being back in America, well, he got killed off. And so for Marc, this is a failure. Now we do see Marc heading back over to New York. He was called in by the FBI headquarters to help figure out who is the crocodile killer. That's his job, to profile the killer, to learn more about the killer, to hopefully find him and then stop him. Now on the way over to New York, he begins to be hunted by ghosts from his past, people that he had failed to save. Now we have no idea that these people are from his career or from his personal life that he had failed to save. But this ghost right here, she does make it seem like she comes from his personal life, that he failed to save her. But she also mentions that he was also a horrible brother to Al Simmons. And that is kind of important. Now, getting back over to Sam and Twitch, they are able to find Roger Bonner. Now, when they walk into his apartment, it's a gross scene, guys. But this man has dead rats and cats and other kind of animals on his wall. And so even though Sam and Twitch are freaking out right off the bat, they have no choice but to try to prove that this guy here is not the crocodile killer because his doctor says he is not. Except as soon as our two heroes arrived at Roger's apartment, well, the FBI agents, including Marc, Al Simmons' brother, arrives to arrest Roger because when it comes to Marc, he began to do his work on profiling the crocodile killer, and he believes that Roger here is the killer, even though his doctor is trying to prove that he is not. But while you have the two groups arguing with one another, well, we see Travis and his tow truck towing away a car. But inside the car that he is towing is a family of 4. And we already know that this man is plotting to kill off this family. And so getting into the next chapter, we pick up with a character known as Damon Edwards. Now, Damon Edwards is going to be somewhat important for this chapter of today's storyline, because he's bringing back a character into the world of Spawn Comics that we have not talked about in a very good while, and that would be Suture. Now remember, Suture was a young lady who had unfortunately experienced a serial killer killing off every single person in a diner, and after seeing that, she ran away, but unfortunately she was hit by a car. Now after being hit by a car and regaining consciousness, well, she was being sexually assaulted by police officers and also paramedics. Now once they realized that she had saw their faces, they had delivered her to another serial killer who had cut her up to, millions of pieces. Now, she was brought back to life by a gypsy, and once she was able to come back to life, she began the process of hunting down serial killers in New York to make them pay for killing off innocent people. And so we saw her in a video a while back, but we had no idea what happened to her, where she has been. But then we pick up with Marc Simmons. Now when it comes to Marc, he stayed in New York until he's kind of able to prove that the person he had picked to be the crocodile killer is actually the crocodile killer. But the opening section for him in this chapter also gives us more information about his past life, where we kind of find out that he was a married man with a son and a wife, but unfortunately they were killed off in a bad car accident. Now, he truly believes that they were killed off because somebody was trying to come after him. But unfortunately, there hasn't been any kind of evidence to prove that theory. And so he's kind of been left alone, or he wants to be left alone until he is able to actually solve the case. But we do see Marc meet up with Wanda. Now remember, Wanda is the ex-wife of Spawn. After Spawn had died 5 years ago, she had moved on and married his best friend Terry. Now when it comes to Wanda, she does meet up with Marc. And this is where we kind of learn that after Al Simmons had died, Marc was there for Wanda to kind of help her get over the death of her husband, his brother. But when his family died, they lost all communication. And so with that being said, he had no idea that she had a daughter with Terry. Now, technically, Cyan is not his niece, but at the same time, she kind of is. It's kind of like him and Wanda still feel like they are family. So Cyan is a niece to him only because they feel like family to one another. And so it's Wanda saying that she felt bad not being there for him like he was for her, and she kind of want to rebuild their relationship with one another and give him the chance to meet his niece Cyan. Now, while you have Marc trying to go back to his hotel, well, that was the moment where he gets confronted by Damon. Now, when it comes to Damon, he tells Marc, hey, I need your help because I feel like you are the best person to help me find Suture. Now, here's the thing. We do learn a tad bit more about Damon, that Damon was actually a big-time profiler for the FBI, the best one in the entire organization. But out of nowhere, he decided to retire and he disappeared. And so no one has seen him ever since then, well, until now. And so you have Marc being very happy about the idea of meeting his role model, somebody he looked up to when he first joined the FBI. Now, when it comes to Marc, he kind of realized right off the bat that Damon has some kind of weird love for Suture, but the problem is we have no idea why. Now when it comes to Marc, he's like, dude, listen, I don't want to help out, except you have Damon tell Marc, no, you need to help me out. And the reason why? Because the man you have picked as the crocodile killer is the wrong person. I know who is the real crocodile killer, and that would be Travis Quinn. And we already know it is Travis, but so far Marc has not been able to figure it out. It was actually Travis, not the other guy. And so it's Damon saying, if you help me, I'll give you all the evidence you need to prove that Travis is the real killer. But on top of that, I have evidence to show you that can help you figure out who killed off your family. And so just like that, Marc is down to help Damon find Suture. Now, when it comes to Marc, he wants to know how Damon knows so much about Suture, the idea that she goes after other serial killers. And he tells Marc that he has been studying her for a very long time. Now, after saying that, he also tells Marc that there's a point in time where Suture always goes after a certain serial killer. When a serial killer reaches a certain number, that is when she strikes. That is when she goes after them to basically kill them. And so when it comes to Marc, he kind of realized that, yeah, when it comes to Damon, he has some kind of sick love for this character. Like, he wants to know more about her, but still kind of likes her. Either way, you do have the two men head over to the base of Travis. And when they arrive, they realize that he has what could be another victim very soon. And so you have Marc wanting to go out of his way to save that victim. Except when it comes to Damon, he's really down with the idea of letting that victim die so that Suture will appear to kill off Travis and then be able to actually have a conversation with her. But the problem is he gets caught off guard by Travis and sent flying across the room into a pipe that of course impales him. And so now Damon's on the verge of dying, but now that leaves Marc by himself against Travis. Now when it comes to Marc, he gets very lucky here because Travis is there and Travis is down with the idea of cutting up Marc, except Marc is saved at the very last second by Suture. And once she appears, let me tell y'all, she cuts up Travis. I mean, she really cuts up Travis a lot. And so Travis is taken care of just like that. Now, when it comes to Marc, he realized that Damon is dying. And he wants to make sure that before Damon dies, he tells him every single piece of information he knows about his family. But when it comes to Damon, he's so focused on Suture. And this is where we get our confirmation that, yeah, Marc was right. Marc was able to profile Damon to show that Damon was madly in love with Suture, which honestly is very sick and weird. But hey, it's the truth. And so when it comes to Damon's last few breaths, it's not used to tell Marc what he needs to know. It's really more Damon saying, hey, I want to tell you that I love you, Suture. And then he died because he was impaled by a metal pipe. And so for Marc, he was unable to get the piece of information he needed from Damon to hopefully figure out who killed off his family. And so his search for the killer continues on. Now, the next chapter and the final chapter for today's video really does focus just on Suture, where you kind of have her tell us, the readers, that no matter how many people she kills off as a way to protect future innocent victims, she still has flashbacks to the point where she was being sexually assaulted by those police officers and those paramedics. And so with those flashbacks, she's kind of wondering who she actually is, because she wants to be Suture, but at the same time, she wants to go back to her old life. But when she thinks about her old life, well, the last thing she remembers was being assaulted over and over again. And when she's out there killing off these different serial killers, it's kind of like her new life is trying to erase her old life. But her old life just stays there with flashbacks to the moment where she was assaulted. But then we pick up with Ian Sanders. Now, at first, Ian Sanders seems like a great guy. Apparently, he's a family man. He has multiple degrees in psychology. He is a therapist, a radio host. Like, the man is just amazing, and everyone loves him. And you can already tell right off the bat where this is about to go, because Of course, he has a dark secret, and he is a serial killer. He has killed off 22 people in New York, and apparently he cuts off their heads and keeps their heads inside containers. Yeah, it's very sickening, and he also does nasty things to those heads. Dude's really messed up. But either way, it's his dark secret while he's living a perfect life. But of course, he was caught by no other than Suture. And so we're left to believe that she came here to basically kill him off because he is another serial killer. Except she doesn't. Instead, she wants him to help her kind of work through her problems because she wants to know which is the best direction to take. Can she go back to her old life? Or can she live this new life as Suture? It's kind of hard for her to decide, but she also needs to work through her problems. The flashbacks to, of course, the very last moment when she was alive before she became Suture. And if he's able to help her, then she will let him live, and matter of fact, let him go. And so he's kind of like, okay, this is the most perfect deal I ever gotten. The ability to go on with my life and not go to jail or possibly die for being a killer. And so he begins to work with her. Now, it's a very short, quick moment where we kind of learn the past of Suture, where we learn that her parents try to use her to reach a certain point in life. And what I mean by that is they wanted to have the money, the fame, the love, and they wanted to use their daughter to reach that status. They wanted to be up there with the Kennedys and any other popular people around this time this comic came out. And so because she was a puppet to be used by her parents, but also other people up to her actual death, she realized that her past life was never her life. It was always everyone else's life, and they were just using her to reach a certain point. And so because of that, she kind of realized that maybe the new life as Suture could be a better life for her. And so once she does decide that, she does tell Ian that he is able to leave. And on top of that, she warns him if he does kill anybody else off, she'll come after him and kill him. Now, the story really does end on Ian going home after being released by Suture, except when he does come home, his wife is crying. And the reason why? Because she found out that he was a serial killer, because he was gone for a good period of time. And so she called the police, and they found his car near the warehouse that he was using to hide all the dead bodies. And so once they were able to put two to two together, they realized that Ian is the actual serial killer. And so even though Suture let him go and he believed that he will be able to continue his normal life, well, the police arrived to arrest him for the killing of 22 people. And you have Suture saying herself that she will continue on with this life as some kind of killer who kills off other serial killers. Now, when it comes to Suture, she does appear in one more book when it comes to all the different Spawn comics, but that's really it. Unfortunately, I feel like a writer should come in, not unfortunately, I really feel like a writer should come in and just try to work with this character and try to give us one heck of a story, because she's a very interesting and cool looking character that could get a lot of love by a lot of fans. But unfortunately, she fell to the wasteland to never be seen again. But this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.